Hello, Squirrel Squad listeners. I owe y'all a big apology. Going 2 days without reading. What's wrong with me? Laziness. Pure tea laziness. So let's get on with chapter 8 called 6 Years Afterward. Wow, she had just gotten home, Polly. What do you think Polly is going to do this winter? Exclaimed Fanny, looking up from the letters she'd been eagerly reading. Going to deliver lectures on women's rights, said the young gentleman who was carefully examining his luxuriant crop of decidedly auburn hair. Who that is. As he lounged with both elbows on the chimney piece. Going to set her cap for some young minister and marry him in the spring, added Mrs. Shaw, whose mind ran a good deal upon matchmaking just now. I think she's going to stay at home and do all the work, 'cause servants cost so much it would be just like her, observed Maud, who could pronounce the letter R now. It's my opinion she's going to open a school or something of that sort to help those brothers of hers along, said Mr. Shaw, who had put down his paper at the sound of Polly's name. Every one of you wrong, though Papa comes nearest the truth, cried Fanny. She is going to give music lessons and support herself so that Will may go to college. He's the studious one, and Polly is very proud of him. Ned, the other brother, has a business talent and don't care for books, so he has gone out west and will make his own way anywhere. Polly says she isn't needed at home now. The family's so small, and Kitty can take her place nicely. So she's actually going to earn her own living and hand over her share of the family income to Will. What a martyr that girl does make of herself, and Fanny looked as solemn as if Polly had proposed some awful self-sacrifice. She's a sensible, brave-hearted girl, and I respect her for doing it, said Mr. Shaw emphatically. One never knows what may happen, and it does no harm for young people to learn to be independent. If she is as pretty as she was last time I saw her, she'll get pupils fast enough. I wouldn't mind taking lessons myself, was the gracious observation of Shaw Jr., as he turned from the mirror with the soothing certainty that his objectionable hair actually was growing darker. She wouldn't take you at any price, said Fanny, remembering Polly's look of disappointment and disapproval when she came on her last visit and found him an unmistakable dandy. You just wait and see, was the placid reply. If Polly does carry out her plan, I wish Maud to take lessons of her. Fanny can do as she likes, but it would please me very much to have one of my girls sing as Polly sings. It suits old people better than your opera things, and Mother used to enjoy it so much. As he spoke, Mr. Shaw's eye turned toward the corner of the fire where Grandma used to sit. The easy chair was empty now. The kind old face was gone, and nothing but a very tender memory remained. Oh. I'd like to learn, Papa, and Polly is a splendid teacher, I know. She's always so patient, makes everything so pleasant. I do hope she will get scholars enough to begin right away, said Maud. When is she coming? Asked Mrs. Shaw, quite willing to help Polly, but privately resolving that Maud shouldn't be finished off by the most fashionable master in the city. She doesn't say. She thanks me for asking her here as usual, but says she shall go right to work, and she'd better begin with her own little room at once. Won't it seem strange to have Polly in town, yet not with us? We'll get her somehow. The little room will cost something, and she can stay with us just as well as not, even if she does teach. Tell her I say so, said Mr. Shaw. She won't come, I know, for if she undertakes to be independent, "She'll do it in the most thorough manner," answered Fanny, and Mrs. Shaw sincerely hoped she would. It was all very well to patronize the little music teacher, but it was not so pleasant to have her settled in the family. "I shall do what I can for her among my friends, and I dare say she will get on very well with young people's pupils to begin with. If she starts right, puts her terms high enough, and gets a few good names to give her the entree into our first families, I don't doubt she will do nicely. For I must say Polly has the manners of a lady," observed Mrs. Shaw. "She's a mighty taken little body, and I'm glad she's to be in town, though I'd like it better if she didn't bother about teaching, but just stayed here and enjoyed herself," said Tom lazily. "I've no doubt she would feel highly honored to be allowed to devote her time to your amusement, but she can't afford expensive luxuries, and she don't approve of flirting, so you will have to let her go her own way and refresh herself with such glimpses of you as her engagements permit," answered Fanny in the sarcastic tone, which was becoming habitual to her. "You're getting to be a regular old maid, Fan, as sharp as a lemon and twice as sour," returned Tom, looking down at her with an air of calm superiority. "Do be quiet, children. You know I can't bear anything like contention. Maud, give me my Shetland shawl and put a cushion at my back." As Maud obeyed her mother with a reproving look, at her erring brother and sister a pause followed for which everyone seemed grateful. They were sitting around the fire after dinner, and all looked as if a little sunshine would do them good. It had been a dull November day, but all of a sudden the clouds lifted and a bright ray shot into the room. Everyone turned involuntarily to welcome it, and everyone cried out, "Why, Polly!" For there on the threshold stood a bright-faced girl, smiling as if there was no such thing as November weather in the world. "You dear thing, when did you come?" cried Fanny, kissing both the blooming cheeks with real affection, while the rest hovered near, waiting for a chance. "I came yesterday and have been getting my nest in order, but I couldn't keep away any longer, so I ran up to say, 'How do you do?'" answered Polly, in the cheery voice that did one's heart good to hear. "My Polly always brings the sunshine with her," and Mr. Shaw held out his hands to his little friend, for she was his favorite still. It was good to see her put both arms about his neck and give him a tender kiss that said a great deal, for Grandma had died since Polly met him last, and she longed to comfort him, seeing how gray and old he had grown. If Tom had any thoughts of following his father's example, something in Polly's manner made him change his mind and shake hands with a hearty, "I'm very glad to see you, Polly," adding to himself as he looked at the face in the modest little bonnet, "Prettier than ever, by Jove." There was something more than mere prettiness in Polly's face, though Tom had not learned to see it yet. The blue eyes were clear and steady, the fresh mouth frank and sweet, the white chin was a very firm one in spite of the dimple, and the smooth forehead under the little curls had a broad benevolent arch, while all above the face were those unmistakable lines and curves which can make even a plain countenance comely, by breathing into it the beauty of lovely character. Polly had grown up, but she had no more style now than in the days of the round hat and rough coat, for she was all in gray, like a young Quakeress, with no ornament but a blue bow at her throat and another in her hair. Yet the plain suits became her excellently, and one never thought of the dress, looking at the active figure that wore it. For the freedom of her childhood gave to Polly that good gift, health, and every movement was full of the vigor, grace, and ease, which nothing else can so surely bestow. A happy soul and a healthy body is a regular sight these days. When doctors flourish and everyone is ill, and this pleasant union was the charm which Polly possessed without knowing it. "It does seem so good to have you again," said Maud, cuddling Polly's cold hand as she sat at her feet when she was fairly established between Fanny and Mr. Shaw, while Tom leaned on the back of his mother's chair and enjoyed the prospect. "How do you get on? When do you begin? Where's your nest? Now tell us all about it," began Fanny, who was full of curiosity about the new plan. "I shall get on very well, I think, for I've got 12 scholars to begin with, all able to pay at a good price, and I shall give my first lesson on Monday." "Don't you dread it?" asked Fanny. "Well, not much. Why should I?" answered Polly stoutly. "Well, I don't know. It's a new thing and must be a little bit hard at first," stammered Fanny, not liking to say that working for one's living seemed a dreadful hardship to her. "It will be tiresome, of course, but I shall get used to it. I shall like the exercise, and the new people and places I must see will amuse me. Then the independence will be delightful, and if I can save a little to help Kitty along with, that will be best of all." Polly's face shone as if the prospect was full of pleasure instead of work, and the hearty goodwill with which she understood the new task seemed to dignify her humble hopes and plans and make them interesting at the sight of others. "Who have you got for pupils?" asked Mrs. Shaw, forgetting her nerves for a minute. Polly named her list and took a secret satisfaction in seeing the impression which certain people made upon her hearers. "How in the world did you get the Davenports and the Grays, my dear?" said Mrs. Shaw, sitting erect in her surprise. "Mrs. Davenport and Mother are relations, you know. You never told us that before. The Davenports have been away for some years and I forgot all about them. But when I was making my plan, I knew I must have a good name or two to set me going, so I just wrote and asked Mrs. D if she would help me. She came and saw us and was very kind, and has got these pupils for me like a dear good woman as she is." "Where did you learn so much worldly wisdom, Polly?" asked Mr. Shaw as his wife fell back in her chair and took out her salts, as if this discovery had been too much for her. "I learned it here," answered Polly, laughing. "I used to think patronage and things of that sort very disagreeable, not worth having, but I've got wiser and to a certain extent. But, let's see what I've got wiser to a certain extent. I'm glad to use whatever advantages I have in my power, if they can be honestly got. Why didn't you let us help you in the beginning? We should have been very glad to, I'm sure," put in Mrs. Shaw, who quite burned to be known as a joint patroness with Mrs. Davenport. Lord, I can't read. "I know you would, but you have all been so kind to me I didn't want to trouble you with my little plans till the first steps were taken. Besides, I didn't know as you would like to recommend me as a teacher, though you like me well enough as plain Polly." "My dear, of course I would, and we want you to take Maud at once and teach her your sweet songs. She has a fine voice and is really suffering for a teacher." A slight smile passed over Polly's face as she returned her thanks for the new pupil, for she remembered a time when Mrs. Shaw considered her sweet songs quite unfit for a fashionable young lady's repartee. "Where's your room?" asked Maud. "My old friend Miss Mills has taken me in, and I'm nicely settled. Mother didn't like the idea of my going to a strange boarding house, so Miss Mills kindly made a place for me. You know, she lets her rooms without board, but she's going to give me my dinners, and I'm going to get my own breakfast and teas quite independently. I like that way. I like that way, and it's very little trouble. My habits are so simple. A bowl of bread and milk night and morning with baked apples or something of that sort is all I want, and can have it when I like. Is your room comfortably furnished? Can't we lend you anything, my dear? An easy chair now, or a little couch?" "So necessary when one comes in tired," said Mrs. Shaw, taking unusual interest in the affair. And I'm going to stop right there, and I know I haven't read much. I am just one of those days, and I am not reading worth toots. Alright, sorry, I feel bad about it. I was going to try to read a chapter. But also, it's almost time to take my car to the garage. And I pray I'll be back home in time. It started groaning. It's only 17 years old with over 200,000 miles on it, which probably isn't that many miles for that age. But anyway, I turned the wheel whichever way, and she goes, kind of like me when I have to turn my wheels. Love y'all. Be sweet, don't be ugly, and I hope to be here live at 5 today. If I'm not going to make it because I'm stuck at the garage, I will put it on my community tab, but I should be back. Be sweet, don't be ugly. See you soon. Bye-bye.